Roll for random encounter.
Welcome back to the Random Encounter Show. I'm DeathStalker V. Springtime is here at the Fortress of Doom. That means thick clouds of pollen swirl through the air. The grass has grown up to over my knees, and the weeds over my head. So yeah, springtime is in the air. Oh, it must be jelly, cause jam don't shake that way. Wow! Okay, anyways, special time of the year. A lot of cultures around the world, religions around the world have holidays centered around this time of year for spring. Maybe it's Pesach, or maybe it's Ramadan, or maybe it's Easter this year, or maybe it's just cultural celebrations for the change of seasons. Who knows? But a lot of people celebrate this time of the year, and I think that's fantastic. Around these parts, we have a giant rabbit of questionable origins. I'm pretty sure Fey origins. He comes bouncing around, leaving all the children baskets of chocolates and things. He stopped seeing me when I was 23 years old. So this year, I came up with a little plan. And, okay, just to be honest, we captured it. We captured this large rabbit, also known as the Easter Bunny. Okay, I got him in the stockades out back from the... Yeah, we're not going to let him go until he starts bringing back our baskets of goodness. That is what it is, So kids, don't stay up late waiting on the Easter Bunny this year. Until he gives DeathStalker V what he wants, he ain't leaving here. Okay? I know a few people that may eat him. Where are we going? Wait, this is a gaming show. That's right. Okay. So, for the spring, I got to thinking, what do I have that sort of matches the time of the year? So, I picked a game where the Easter Bunny very well could be a legitimate character in this role-playing game. And that is Harvesters from Troll Lord Games. A neat anthropomorphic, intelligent animal style role-playing game. Box set, the full game in a box. Let's go down to the table and take an in-depth look. Okay, down on the table we've got our Harvester box set. An anthropomorphic fantasy role-playing game. Anthropomorphic as in, think of movies like Secret of Nim, or series and shows, comics, etc. like Redwall, Mouse Guard. Anthropomorphic small creatures living in a society with the ability to talk to one another, develop weapons, etc. So fun stuff. Normally not my type of theme or setting, though I did think this would be a good introduction to role-playing for children and maybe my wife. Women always like the cute cuddly creatures for whatever reason. But actually, I love the Redwall series. You can find that here on YouTube if you look around. And I've always loved that series. It's always fun to watch. And after watching it, one day I decided, hey, I'm going to pull the trigger on the Harvesters RPG by John P. Sable. Troll Lord Games box sets. The boxes themselves, the outward boxes. These are some of the most high quality boxes for games that I have ever received. These are built to last. These aren't going to fail you a few months down the road from storing your games and opening and closing them. They're really thick cardboard, nice printing. I believe they even have a clear coat on it if I feel the texture correctly, and it has a glossiness to it, so there's more than likely a nice clear coat applied as well. The artwork's fantastic. We have a a squirrel ranger. I'm gonna guess an otter cleric or wizard. Over here we have this awesome badger, you know, with the long sword. And I think this is going to be a rabbit or a hare. I love how instead of Viking horns, you have his ears coming out of the side of the helmet there. So that art's very evocative of what this game's going to be about. At this point, for a proper review, you know what we've got to grab.
Sword of Power!
Alright, the Sword of Power. Let's, lot of text here, but let's just take a look and see what's written on the back of the box. Begin with an epic journey in the rugged Thax. Let's restart this. I'm sorry. One thing I'll say about the box is that the writing itself is in like a gray font, and it's on a sort of grayish background, so it's a little bit hard to read. So let's tilt it up here. I'm sorry if it's glaring for you guys, but I can't see it through the glare. Begin an epic journey in the rugged tracks of the most unlikely heroes. Enter the world of the harvesters, where badgers, rabbits, squirrels, and otters launch into adventures of epic wonder. Here the smallest of creatures take on the roles of the greatest heroes: knights, druids, clerics, rogues, wizards, and fighters. Together they tackle the greatest of adventures, from rescuing those in need to finding a lost treasure. Harvesters is a game for the child in all of us. Alright, so it sounds pretty much like what it is. It is a Castles and Crusade rule-based, it's got the Siege Engine rules, rule-based game that takes, you know, the standard human-centric role-playing game and brings it down to an animal scale level. So we'll take a look at things, but I think it's a very interesting concept. I've always loved to sit back and think of what it would be like to be much smaller and how the world looks to a smaller point of view. Here we get a list of everything that's going to be included in the box. We'll skip that for now because we're going to go through the contents of the box. Harvesters is a role-playing game designed for ages 6, I believe it could be an 8, but I'm going to say that's ages 6 and up, and adults. Okay, so you know, with the right mentorship or somebody sitting at a table, I can see 6-year-olds being able to enjoy this game. Suggested retail price is $49.99 for the box set. Up front, the box set contains everything made for this game to date. That includes the main rules, the adventures, and some extras. So let's get the box out of the way here. Set the Sword of Power to the side. First thing we get out of the box up top will be this wonderful set of dice. Now, I don't figure every set of dice is this, but I love this green, blue, pearly type of dice. I mean, this is a beautiful set. So, hey, you got your dice to play. That's a good thing. Next up in the box, what we're going to take a look at, this is our main rule book for Harvesters. Same artwork as on the cover of the box. Same text is on the back of the box, minus the contents of the box, obviously. Soft cover, not staple bound. That's nice. I live in South Alabama. It's very humid. We live in swamplands. So staple bound things and staples, they tend to rust very quickly here. So I always am very wary of buying staple bound products. Just a little caveat there. Busting open the game, we have our title page and over to our contents. Now, we're not going to look at every single page of this book. We're going to take an in-depth look, but not every single page. For instance, I don't think I think everybody's probably familiar with old school Dungeons and Dragons, or any edition of Dungeons and Dragons really. It's not necessarily old school. this game is designed around that framework. If you know anything about Castles and Crusades or some of the other Troll Lord games, they've taken the basic framework of what third edition was, stripped it down to almost nothing, and rebuilt the game completely. And I love it. I love it. So it was one of the main reasons I would choose Harvesters over something like Mouse Guard 2nd edition or whatever. These rules I already know, so it's literally just plug and play. We'll take a look and see if there's anything a little different. I know in here movement's a little different because we're at a much smaller scale in the world. We'll talk about that. But classes here, you know, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Knight, Ranger, Rogue, and Wizard. I'm pretty sure most of my viewers will be familiar with all of those archetypal classes for the D&D styled class-based system games. Okay, so we won't bother to run through that too much. We might take a look, who knows? You're running with DeathStalker 5. That's why we call it the Random Encounter Show. We don't script this, we just go. So here we get a little introduction to Harvesters. You know, greetings and welcome to the Harvesters role-playing game. This game allows you to assume the role of any number of characters in a fantasy world populated by intelligent animals. You will not find any humans here. The animals live in houses and perform roles just as humans do in a traditional fantasy setting. Here one finds squirrels, rabbits, mice, and mice working as bakers, blacksmiths, and constables. You have a choice of playing a variety of small critters, including chipmunks, turtles, and woodchucks. But these are not your average run-of-the-mill animals. Oh no, they are adventurers. These critters go beyond the call of duty to seek out and solve problems that would make others hide in their homes and shake with fear. They do not fear the unknown, they meet it head on. It is their calling to do what others find too frightening to attempt. Okay, so that was a better description than I was able to give you. So maybe you have a little clearer understanding of the setting and type of role-playing game Harvesters is. The artwork for this is just fantastic, I have to say. Now we get a generic, what is a role-playing game type introduction here. What do you need to play? Having fun with it. How to create the character. You know, standard character creation as we know it from Castles and Crusades and older editions of D&D. Roll 3d6. Find out what your modifiers are. Continue. So we're not going to stick around too much on that. What I want to move into is, of course, we have our classes. You know, here's our Cleric, our Druid, our Fighter, our Knight. Okay, that was a nice addition. Ranger, of course. Rogue. And Wizard. Okay, and if you pay attention to these, the description of each class is set in the world of the Harvesters role-playing game, but the abilities and skill modifiers and whatnot, they come exactly from Castles and Crusades. You know, it's literally just ported straight over to here. Look at that skunk. The artwork's fantastic in this, guys, I'm telling you. Let's see. Races. Here's where we come to something that's vastly different from Castles and Crusades. As it said, we're playing intelligent animal adventurers, not humans. So languages will be very different. There will be languages for things like, let's see, armadillos, badgers, beavers, canines, chipmunks, lemmings, lizards, rabbits and hares, raccoons, waterfowls, woodchucks. The chittering language of squirrels can also be learned, but understanding it requires one language choice. So there's the language is no longer common and orc and trollish and all this kind of stuff. Just for this world here. Gotta love that. Movement. This where things might throw some people off if you're expecting a straight port from Castles and Crusades or old school D&D games. They still list movement into feet, but for the size of these characters, moving 3 feet is a lot of movement. If you're the size of a toad frog, you know, moving 3 feet is about the same as a human moving 30 feet. Do you understand what I'm saying there? So it's still in feet, but since the size of our characters are much smaller, they can't cover as many feet per turn as larger creatures would. I think that's pretty simple. So again, attribute modifiers, class modifiers, classes and stuff, they're pretty much ported straight over from Castles and Crusades. We start getting into the races themselves, such as over here we have the Badger. And we get all of the neat little modifiers and unique abilities and stuff that all Badgers will share. Over here we have a Chipmunk. You know, we have a Frog. And I think frogs will cover toads as well. Quite possibly. Maybe not. You know, but this looks more like a toad. But that's just artwork, so. But here we have a mouse. An otter. That's a wild choice. But it makes sense when we see the setting. The rabbit and hare. Squirrels. Turtles. I bet turtle is very interesting to play. That would be very interesting. I've never thought of playing a turtle before in a role-playing game. Water shrew. Woodchucks. So as you can see here, as we looked at the standard classes, and then we got into the races, I think there's more races here than there are classes, and I almost get the sense that whatever race you are is almost more important than the class that you are. I don't know. You know, I've broke this out and played it very scantily, you know, as a little introduction here and there, never really in depth or anything. Had a lot of fun with it, but if I was to play long term, I think I would see that, you know, classes are important, but what race you are really fleshes out the character even more than the class does. And it talks about fleshing out the character here with a persona, an alignment, good and evil. They still stick with, I'm, you know, a game like this, I don't see using the full good and evil spectrum that comes from, you know, Castles and Crusades and old school D&D. You know, good, evil, neutral should probably be enough for anybody's game dealing with anthropomorphic, you know, animals that are intelligent. Especially if you're playing with younger children, they're not going to get the full neutral evil, true neutral, chaotic good, chaotic evil, etc. I rarely use these in any games that I play. In fact, I pretty much do away with alignment in all games I play. So there's you a tip from DeathStalker V. We get a set of equipment. Now this equipment is very much like Castles and Crusades basic equipment list. In fact, they probably are the Castles and Crusades basic equipment list. So that's one thing that this game's really set in fantasy with the anthropomorphic theme. You know, the games are almost interchangeable. There are one thing I will say about, because this one's a little bit older than a little bit older. This game came out and I don't think it's been updated in quite some time. But in the past, Troll Lore games, they did struggle with their editing. You know, as much as I love them, and like I said, Castles and Crusades is my go-to game for fantasy role-playing. They did suffer a little bit from editing. Like here we have split mail, 00 GP. You know, but nothing so bad that you can't easily, you know, figure out what the mistake was and fix it. Over here we have more of our tools and rations and backpacks and this kind of stuff. So a fully fleshed out item selection and weapon selection. We get into expert weapons and armors and encumbrance. So then we get into our magic. And of course, just like castles and crusades, we have clerics and druids that have a divine magic, sort of. And we have wizards that use an arcane magic. And they have separate spell list. Separate spell list that they all use. Some spells overlap with one another. Okay, not too hard, but let's just take a look here. So a lot of these spells seem that they're just lifted straight from castles and crusades, but they all have a little bit of a tweak for the setting here. You know, calm vermin, or burning paws instead of burning hands. And normally it's a, you know, just a word or two is changed to make, you know, instead of burning hands, it's burning paws. You know, so it's interesting and it's flavorful. So let's move through here a little bit. We don't need to see every spell. We get into the castle and its keep. We get into what makes Castles and Crusades and all of the games that Troll Lord Games publish using this siege engine so good, you know, and that is the siege engine itself. The attribute checks and the saves and different things, it allows you to do just about anything you can imagine without having to look up or have all these abilities and feats and things that came out with 3rd edition. It's a very simple system to remember, and it works on the fly, and it's why I love these games with the siege engine for solo play. We get an outline of combat. The artwork is, like I said, I can't quit talking about the artwork. I love the artwork here. We get into environments. So, environments, we have dungeons and we have trees. Dungeons here might be burrows of different animals. It might be small cave systems or something. So they do move things where dungeons, you know, like in Castles and Crusades, could be ruins and all this kind of stuff. They could mean the same thing here, but they also give some flavor and some character to the world by changing things up a little bit. Trees. I think this is an awesome environment setting that we normally don't see in role-playing games. Tunnels, water, we get into movement, again, languages, vision, experience points, and we get into treasure over here. Now, here's where we get some really awesome material. We move over to critters and creatures. This book contains a full, what you might call the monster manual, you know, for the system. And instead of just, you know, modifying a whole bunch of stuff from their existing Castles and Crusade games, they did in some cases. We did get a lot of new things. You know, like antlings. And we've got things that fit the setting. You know, you're not seeing dragons here. You're seeing things like armadillos and bats and badgers and beavers and bears. All sorts of beetles. More beetles, in fact, than we got in the Castles and Crusades Monster and Treasure book. I love using insects in my games. That's one thing you'll see in the future. Giant water bugs, different birds, you know. The list just goes on and on and on. Giant crayfish. There's an old RPG game that I absolutely love. I need to get another copy of it, or just print off another copy. It's quite obscure, but it's Creeks and Crawdads, about radioactive giant mutated crawfish that come out of the creeks and things on a radioactive Earth. And yeah, that's the adventurers. That you play the crawfish themselves. It is hilarious. But let's not segue or go off too far off the rails. But yeah, we'll just flip through here. Tons and tons of monsters to use for your game. So that gives a lot of replayability to this game. I noticed a lot of these sort of specialty games, you know, like maybe an anthropomorphic game or whatever. You pretty much got a standard set of rules, and then you got some adventures published for it. None of them that I know of, that I've personally seen. Now, Mouse Guard is an exception. I chose this game over Mouse Guard when I chose this game. Mouse Guard may be different. I hear a lot of good stuff about it. But most of them have nowhere near, you know, the amount of different creatures and things to throw into your game. And we're going to get to the part of the book where I think a mistake has been made. And it's the only bad thing I can really say about this book. Now, the monster ratings, I mean, not the monster ratings, that's Tunnels and Trolls. But the monsters are listed just like you would find in Castles and Crusades. You know, the only differences being is that with movement and size, you know, that's swapped up because, again, we're working at a much smaller scale. So like a corn snake can move 6 foot, and it can climb 3 foot, or 6 foot, 3 foot climbing and 3 foot swimming. You know, so yeah, that few feet may seem strange to people, but at a smaller scale, remember it. I love the Thistler. That's one of my favorite creatures from this book. Almost there. And here's where we come to the part of the game that really sort of disappointing to me. And it may be fixed now, you know, in current printings of this game. But we move to the trinkets and treasures section. And I may be vastly mistaken. I may just be missing something here. But I flipped through this book and I flipped through the other books that come with this box set, and it's as far as I know, it's missing. So we get an explanation of treasures here. Everything from coins to potions to magical items, etc. We get a treasure generator basically, and it talks about awarding the treasure. But we do not get a list of the actual treasures. This is the Open Games license that is used here. By the way, this is the Harvester's second printing, 2018, if you needed to know. So it may be fixed, but we don't get an actual list of magical items here. And if you don't know what I mean, give me 1 second and I'll show you. So here we have the Monsters and Treasure book of Castles and Crusades. Here we have our treasure generator, and as you can see, we have a list of various treasures that could come up in this treasure generator. You know, it goes on and on and on. Then we have actual descriptions of various magical treasures that players could find and how they're used. You know, fabulous stuff. On the other hand, this is what we get. So this is very disappointing. I believe that it must have been left out. You know, maybe not. I don't know. Can't say for current editions if it's been updated or not. I haven't checked. But, you know, we do get the treasure types. It's just like from Castles and Crusades. But we, you know, in here we do get some hints at some of the unique treasure items that would be available in the game. I'm looking here because some of them are mentioned off and on here. You know, like Ciro's Ring of Agrogistics. So yeah, we get some scant clues, but nothing. And I guess you could use, you know, the treasures from Monsters and Treasures if you already have Castles and Crusades, or import treasures from a D&D edition that you love or whatever. But sort of disappointing in that regard, but not all is lost. You know, that's my only complaint about this game. is this printing anyway, is that we did not get the unique treasures for this world. But not all is lost, as we will find out soon. But first, I want to talk about some other things we get in the box. Of course, we get character sheets. Pretty much the same character sheets you would expect to get at the time, 2018, with Castles and Crusades. So, you know, harvesters, double-sided, that's what you get. Nothing too special in the character sheets themselves. I actually do not use these type character sheets. I create my own, much more simplified, without all this extra stuff going crazy everywhere. But these do the job. And it's nice that you don't have to print them off. If you were just to open the game and want to start playing, hey, dice, character sheets, find some pencils and jump in. But let's talk about the setting here. Here's our gazetteer. It's called Wheat Hollow. And with this, we get a nice, thick, almost cardstock, fold-out map of Wheat Hollow itself. It's a very detailed map with roads and waterways and terrain, you know, easy to identify. And it's broke down into hexes. A bit very small hexes, but it is broke down into hexes. We get a legend here: 1 hex equals 2,000 feet. I do love any map that comes hex style. As a solo player and as somebody who enjoys the older style of role-playing games, hex crawls are very much part of my gaming repertoire. I love hex crawling. I use hex maps any chance I get to use them, you know. So, but these hexes are very tiny, so you could lay this under plastic and use a dry erase marker, or you could, you know, or you could find a very small bead. Is normally what I do, a bead or a stone or just something, and I just lay the map down and I will move that stone and to show where I'm at on the map. So very handy for solo players, you know, very handy for parties and GMs. You know, the gazetteer gives a brief description of each place on the map, enough that if you wanted to flesh out and create stories of your own, you know, you have this whole world setting here to do so. So the replayability value of this game is very high in that regard. And I'm not sure if these are available outside of the box set. I don't remember seeing them on the Troll Lord game website. So I think if you get the box set, you know, that's the way you want. It's definitely a great deal if you want to get the box set, because you get the map and the gazetteer. For solo players, like I said, something you definitely want. So let's move over into some of our adventures here. This one contains the same art as the box and the rule books. Let's see. Lord Monax, Badger Lord of Wheat Hollow, has called an emergency meeting. Farmer Thistledown's group of harvesters didn't return home last night from yesterday's work. To lose 1 animal is one thing, to lose 10 animals is quite another. And with winter coming on, the food that is harvested is of the utmost importance to the village's survival. To make matters worse, rumors abound about a ghost haunting the area, seen near the Thistledown farm. Lord Monaz, he was Lord Monax up here, but okay, like I said, the Troll Lord game editing, sometimes, you know, there's a bit to be desired, but it's never too bad. Lord Monax, or Monaz, had previously shrugged it off as superstition, but now he's beginning to wonder. But they can wait no longer. So Lord Monax, so we're going to go with Monax, has called together a group of stout adventurers to head to Farmer Thistledown's farm to find out what has happened and solve the mystery of the missing harvesters. So what we have here is a little adventure module. And one thing I like about Troll Lord Games adventure modules is they typically do not run the course of story point A to B to C progression in their adventure modules. That makes these more of a sandboxing nature and much easier to play and enjoy in a solo in a solo manner, in solitaire gaming. So there are stories and things, and we'll work on that in future episodes on our solo gaming series. But yeah, these are definitely, especially this one at least, it's definitely solo friendly for our generative or sandbox style. And one thing I will mention, we talked about all wasn't lost with magical items. See, we get nice hex maps in here too. We're not going to throw any spoilers out there. I don't see any in here, but in some of these adventures, it does list some very unique magic items, you know, that can be found, or rewards for the adventurers in these adventure modules. Let's see. Harvester's Lost Fangs Gold. Got some different artwork. Little bit different style with this, almost, you know, compared to that. Let's see if we can get the glare out of there. You know, I like this one a lot too. Over the last many seasons, the Southern Road has been plagued by the Long Fang Rat Gang. They have been hijacking goods and stealing every bit of gold that has passed their way. The surrounding communities have tracked them down, and all the clues lead to the Linden Forest, but nobody is overly eager to step foot in those dark woods. Besides the Long Fang Gang, all manner of nasty critters live there. And then there is a ghost of the long-lost wizard. They are in need of heroes. Anyone who is stalwart enough to enter the woods will be richly rewarded. For to find the hideout and all the gold that has been taken away will make that person wealthy indeed. So this one here seems more of a mystery. We've got a ghost and a haunting and stuff. This is more of a quest adventure exploration type module. I will take it from the back cover. Let's take a sneak peek inside. Again, very detailed hex maps. Again, sandboxy style. Really good artwork. Let's skip through here. Let's see if we happen to find some. Yeah, here we go. We have some magic items we could find, like a ball of fog, a chameleon cloak, potion of black bear strength, a torpedo egg, new spells. So, yeah, we do, you know, in a way we do pick up some of the very unique treasures that would be available for this game in this setting. And a third adventure was included with our game here. The artwork seems to match better with Lost Fangs Gold, but we have Black Tim's Prize. Looks like this is going to take place maybe on the lake here. You know, there's a large portion of lake for our map, so I would imagine, you know, that many adventures would incorporate some kind of naval campaign, or at least ships or something, you know, dealing with water, because it's basically at least 30% of your map is this Lake Lotor. So Black Tim's Prize, we've got our adventurers that look like they're on a boat, and creatures from the Black Lagoon are swarming them. Who knows? 2 months ago, a flamboyant and likable mouse named Pandon and his crew sailed into the small port of Wheat Hollow upon their ship, the Wild Goose, seeking a long-forgotten treasure located on one of the many small islands to the north of Lake Lotor. He carried a treasure map which he claimed would lead him directly to the cache. But the treasure map was not Pandon's. It belonged to a pug-nosed pirate named Black Tim, and Black Tim was none too happy. He set out after the mouse the very next day. That was 2 weeks past. Now a satchel containing some water-stained maps has washed up on the shore in Wheat Hollow. It was found by one of the otter children that happened to be playing there. After searching the contents further, it is believed to be none other than the property of Pandon the mouse. Now questions remain. What happened to Pandon? Could this be what Black Tim was looking for? Could it lead to some treasure or something else entirely? The only way to know is to follow Pandon and the pirate, Black Tim. All right, we got us pirates and a treasure hunt going on here with this adventure. So let's take a look here. We've got a village layout. Flipping through, no spoilers. A blank page. Again, this seems very sandbox style. Some more blank pages. Detailing some of the locations of some more beautiful hex maps, but detailing some locations of our campaign world, Wheat Hollow. So, yeah. So that's what we got. That's what comes in the box set. Let's go back to our game case and let's talk about harvesters and my final thoughts. Okay, here with some final thoughts and review of the Harvesters box set. If anybody's still awake, I don't know. It's I think the Harvesters overall is a lovely role-playing game. It's very surprising because like I've said over and over through this video, I'm not one typically that would play an anthropomorphic intelligent animal game. But yeah, reading through this, and I have played some short little scenarios and stuff I've made with my son when he was a few years ago, when he was a little bit younger and stuff, and I found that I really enjoyed this game. In fact, it's just going through things and looking at it more in depth and messing around with it here on the table. You know, we might possibly see a little solo action out of this game in the future. I'm intrigued by it. So that's definitely caught my attention. So with our review process, you know, I wanted to come up with a more official way we're going to review games here on the Random Encounter Show from here on. And because I'm a fan of Western movies, I decided that we would call our reviews The Good, The Bad, and The Ugly. Why not? You know? So let's move to the good with the Harvesters. One thing I think this game is aimed at would be beginners for role-playing games, and also children, you know, that want to get into role-playing games themselves. Very, very beginner-friendly. Very, very kid-friendly. It's a lot of the adventures that come with this game are very appropriate for children. You know, it's not a whole lot of hack and slash material and more mature themes. No, they center around maybe there's mystery, you know, and we need to find clues. We need to help other things in the game, other characters in the game, our communities. We need to do some problem solving. And there is enough action to keep children entertained. So I think this is a very, very great set for children. When it comes to the rules and mechanics and things, I believe that if you set this box down with, it says ages 6 and up. If you set this box set down with a group of 6-year-olds and give them some time, they may figure out the gist of playing. But I would highly suggest for an adult to game master this game for a group of children, you know. I think that would be the way to go. And I think it would be a spectacular experience. I know in my short experiences with this game, it has been. The artwork. Again, fantastic artwork. We got to see inside the books a little bit on the table. The artwork is very evocative of the setting and of the game itself and of Wheat Hollow. You know, it really puts you in the mindset of what the game experience is going to be like. I found the characters and the art and everything to be very kid-friendly. We didn't have anything that, you know, would be suggestive of anything maybe you wouldn't want your child to see. The worst thing we saw was a skunk pulling its pants down, and I thought that was hilarious. And I would have thought it was hilarious as a 6-year-old. Because everybody knows skunk spray as a defense mechanism. You know, the theme and setting, this is where this game excels. Okay, the artwork, the descriptions of the setting, the adventures, the map, the gazetteer, everything in the box set, the setting wins, big time. It uses the Siege engine, which I personally am a huge fan of. You know, it's like the addition of D&D we should have gotten at some point. You know, but now it's Castles and Crusades and other games that use the Siege engine, like Harvesters and Amazing Adventures. And one neat thing I found about the Siege engine and Troll Lord games is because they produce Castles and Crusades and they produce Amazing Adventures and they produce the Harvesters. You know, sometimes a certain game system, you know, maybe Castles and Crusades, you play it a whole lot and it gets sort of stale on you. You know, now you could change your campaign up to something different or throw in some variables or whatever. Of course you could. But it's so easy just to jump over and to play a game like this that uses the same rules. You know, you're not having to reread rules and build an understanding of a new rule system. No, you're pretty much able to jump right in and start playing. But the game is so vastly different, you know, with the setting and the themes and the approach, that it really does feel fresh. It really does feel good. Another thing about the Siege engine is it is my favorite role-playing game system for solo. You know, we'll get into why and when we really look at Castles and Crusades and start playing on the table some solo games. But the Siege engine opens up these role-playing games to be just fantastic solitaire games. Especially for the sandbox generative style of gaming for solo. Construction on the materials here. This box is going to last. It's sturdy. It's nice. Even though the books are soft back, they're nice. You know, I've been playing Siege engine games for many years now, and as far as I can remember, I've never had a book come apart. I've never had a page come out of anything, even the softbound books. You know, so they have some just top quality production, and I've come to expect it, and I've never been disappointed. Let's get to our bad. In this review process, the bad are things that maybe I didn't like, or maybe I saw that could be better. Not anything necessarily game-breaking or anything. We reserve that for the ugly. But for the bad, I don't have much to put in the bad category here. The only thing I can say that would sort of fit the bad category would be the few editing typos, or editing mistakes and typos. Nothing game-breaking. You know, we saw an example with a piece of armor that didn't have the correct gold value listed. Sometimes you'll run into things like maybe something weighs way more than it should. Stuff like that. Stuff that's easily fixed. No problem. So, you know, and a lot of people that probably doesn't bother at all. It really doesn't bother me unless it's to a point where it makes the game incoherent. You know, editing and typos in role-playing games, that seems to have been a thing for a long time now. And there's some games that are written in ways that just, it's all over the place. It doesn't make sense, you know. So that would actually put them into the ugly category for me. But for Troll Lord games, like I said, they've gotten much better over the years with their editing. And never has their editing ever presented a problem with actually playing or learning their rule systems. And one reason I talk about that is I have worked in editing. I edit my own works. I've edited other people's works and things. So small things to me just stick out, like because I've taught myself to be an editor basically. So things pop out at me. You know, probably not so bad for just people who aren't into that process of publishing and editing. But again, nothing game breaking. And now we get to the ugly. And I'm sad to say that the Harvester box set does have something that falls into the ugly category. Now the ugly is something I don't think any other Troll Lord Games product I could put anything in there about the ugly except this set. Okay? But we're about honesty here. Even though I love Troll Lord games and I'm 100% behind them, You know, I will always be honest with you, the audience. And this game, the fact that it's missing its magical items and treasure, pretty much entire catalog of items, is a ugly mistake to me. Now, there's a caveat to this. Okay? That maybe I received a misprinted book. Maybe they had a bad run. Okay? I shot a message over to somebody at Troll Lord Games just to find out. So, if they can give us some clarification of why that section's missing, you know, because I have a feeling it must exist, because it does, we do get some hints and scant clues of magical treasures that are unique to this system. But I very much hope that it was just a printing mistake or whatever. And like I said, I will update you guys if it was just a mistake. But the fact that the box set as it sits in my hand, you know, because this game is pretty much a port of Castles and Crusades, they have taken Castles and Crusades and put a lot of fluff into it and changed it enough that, I mean, like the descriptions of the areas, the races, the classes, and different things are all modified to fit this style game. And I think that's fantastic. Especially the critters or monsters, you know, creatures of the world. I think it was just a fantastic job all the way around of making this game feel different than Castles and Crusades itself. But it would have definitely helped much, much more to have those unique items, you know, specific to this world. So, yeah, a little bit of a disappointment. If you have any edition of D&D, basically, or any OSR games, or you have the Monsters and Treasures book from Castles and Crusades, it won't be hard just to pull magic items over into this game. You know, pretty much no conversion needed whatsoever, especially with Castles and Crusades, Monsters and Treasures. You might change some names or some abilities around just a little bit to tweak them to make them fit this setting better. Okay? Overall, like I said, I really like this game. And, you know, whenever I need a break from Castles and Crusades, I think I'm going to experiment with this solo. I highly recommend this game if you already own Castles and Crusades and are familiar with the Siege engine. You know, because if the treasure section is missing, you at least have recourse straight from the Monsters and Treasures book. But even without the magical treasure section, unless you've never played a role-playing game before, a game master will be able to come up with stuff. And the box set is well worth it. You know, the box set, I'll have to say, is well worth it, even without the treasure section. You know, for me at least. But that might be a big game breaker for other people. I can't say. That's why I try to explain things as thoroughly as possible. Anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. It's pouring rain here at the Fortress of Doom. And I look forward to a weekend of good eating, spending time with the wife, and possibly painting some of those 500-something miniatures I bought for the show. I'm DeathStalker V, and you've been watching the Random Encounter Show.
Hey, this is DeathStalker V. If you like the Random Encounter Show, make sure you're subscribed to our channel so that you'll be the first to know when we upload a new episode. Want to support the show? Head over to Questing Table Studio on Facebook. Let us help you bring your table to life with miniature painting services and terrain.